Hi guys, Forgotten Wolf here, and this is part 4 to my little series, What If Game of Thrones Went to 10 Seasons? This time I'm going to be covering Season 8. I assure you this won't be as bad as the actual Season 8. So, once again, I'm using my Winds of Winter predictions as a basis, and with that out of the way, let's begin. To start off the season, we see a reaction to one of last season's major deaths, being Stannis. Inside Winterfell, we see an envoy of Stannis telling the men inside Winterfell, including Davos and Lord Rickon Stark by this point. Davos is shocked, and when told Ramsay Bolton killed him, Davos realizes Ramsay intends to march on Winterfell. But they're also told that Jon Snow is alive. Speaking of Jon, this earlier part of the season is Jon going to be winning some of the support of some of the northern houses. We see him inside Carhold asking for the support of House Karstark, and he will get it as Alice Karstark is the new Lady of Carhold, and she recognizes Jon's role in saving her life, since in the books Jon marries her to Sigorn, and I kept that for the show. And yeah, the North remembers. Sorry. Jon leaves with the Karstark army, with the next stop being Bear Island. On the topic of Starks, we follow Arya Stark, who arrives back in Westeros. There she arrives back at the salt pans to find that the town has been destroyed. Arya asks what happened here, to which people say a man that is described as one of the Clegane brothers destroyed it. Arya is shocked, thinking the Hound did this. Speaking of the Hound, he makes his return the same way he did season 6. I held off doing this last time as I didn't have anything for him to do, but now since we're really getting into the Winds of Winter and parts of the actual season 6 here, I figured I should include it. Returning to the Starks, we see Sansa Stark and Littlefinger going through Moat Cailin. Sansa thought the Ironborn took it, to which Littlefinger confirms they did, but he tells her of the Boltons taking Moat Cailin back in season 4, and Littlefinger says even your enemies can be your allies sometime, giving Sansa some food for thought. Now, moving on to King's Landing quickly here, we see Aegon Targaryen welcome some of the Lords of Dorne to King's Landing to celebrate the soon to be wedding, and with the war soon done and against the Lannisters, he can be wed to Arianne Martell. We get to see Arianne and Aegon talk, and the scene is meant to mirror Dorne's welcoming to, or Joffrey's wedding back in season 4. You know what I'm trying to say here. Finally, I will go with the Lannisters, where Cersei basically learns that Jaime is alive, and she asks Qyburn to send word of everyone, commanding Jaime return to Casterly Rock. Meanwhile, Jaime frees the remaining members of the Brotherhood without banners that aren't corrupt, such as Tharos of Myr, among others, and that ends episode 1. To start episode 2, we see Daenerys return to Meereen, where she reunites with her dragons. They all fly around. Daenerys asks what happened since she was gone, to which Tyrion tells her about the Battle of Fire, the death of the Slave Masters, Quentyn Martell, Victarion Greyjoy, and Barristan Selmy. A lot has happened since she's been gone. Daenerys thanks her council for winning Meereen and securing her hold over the free cities. Moving up north to Winterfell, a huge kind of meeting inside Winterfell's Grand Hall. Rickon Stark asks what should be done about Ramsay Bolton and the Boltons. Some of the lords believe that Jon Snow and the wildlings can take them themselves. Others are less sure. In the end, Wyman Manderly steps forward, declaring he will join the fight against Ramsay Bolton and oh crap, I lost where I was. This is bad. He leaves. After this, Yara Greyjoy steps forward, asking for his brother Theon to be freed. Most of the lords are opposed to this, but Yara is insistent that with his help they can take back the Iron Islands from Euron and create an alliance. This gets Theon to be freed, and Yara walks away to Winterfell cells and frees Theon and tells them they are getting out of the north. But we are staying in the north temporarily, as we once again see Jon Snow winning the support of the northern houses. This time it's Bear Island and House Mormont. The scene where Jon tries to convince Lyanna Mormont remains basically the same here. Snow wins the support of House Mormont and their men. With these additions, Jon Snow is finally ready to play the Game of Thrones, starting with the Battle of Bastards, although that's coming in a few episodes. Moving to Meereen, Daenerys has another meeting with her small council and tells them that she is ready to leave Meereen for Westeros, now that the Dothraki on her side. Tyrion asks what of the ship situation. Daenerys says they can build ships here and use the ones that are left over from Victarion Greyjoy. Tyrion says that it would take years, and Daenerys To which Daenerys responds, "See to it that we have ships to leave." From one small council meeting to another in King's Landing, Aegon attends a small council meeting, which Aegon, Jon Connington, Aerion Martell, Mace Tyrell, and Varys all sit on the small council. Varys tells them of the Starks return to power in the north, but also tells them that Euron Greyjoy intends to siege Old Town. See, I didn't forget about him. Something needs to be done. Aegon declares that he shall leave with the Golden Company and the Tyrell army to meet and kill Euron Greyjoy. Jon Connington and Mace Tyrell go with, while the rest of the council is left to hold King's Landing in his place. Speaking of Old Town, we see Samwell Tarly, who while holding a few books, witnesses the Greyjoy banner taking Old Town. We see Euron invading Old Town, and this gets Sam to take Gilly and Little Sam to leave Old Town via cart for now. Either way, Euron now holds Old Town, and I'll get to Bran, where I'm really trying to keep him involved in the plot this season, like last season. So I'm gonna need to drag out his plot, which this episode involves Bran leaving Craster's Keep, along with Mira, Reed, and Summer. Now to end episode 2, we see Jaime leaving Riverrun and saying goodbye to Brienne, who also leaves with the Brotherhood without banners. Moving on to episode number 3 now. We see Yara Greyjoy and Theon Greyjoy sail away via ship that the Ironborn still hold. Yara Greyjoy and Theon Greyjoy have a real talk as they leave, which Theon asks why Yara told Stannis to execute him. Yara says it was a way of ends to a means. And momentarily the two Greyjoy siblings are divided. Moving to Castle Rock now, Qyburn informs Cersei that Aegon Targaryen is leaving King's Landing in order to meet Euron Greyjoy in Old Town. Qyburn also tells Cersei that she needs allies, and when Euron is defeated, Aegon will look towards Castle Rock, and she'll basically need to get allies. And Cersei asks Qyburn if he's proposing remarriage, and Qyburn says, "Yes, Your Grace, you can't hold the Westerlands with just the Lannister army." Cersei asks Qyburn for a suggestion of whom, to which Qyburn suggests that Euron Greyjoy would be an ideal partner should he win at Old Town. He will be a powerful ally, and Cersei commands a letter to be sent to Euron Greyjoy, summoning him to Castle Rock. Moving to Arya Stark now, she returns to the Riverlands this time and by herself, and this is where we get the reunion between Arya and Nymeria in the show, but I'm going to get one major difference. Nymeria and her wolf pack come with Arya. I'm not going to mention them a whole ton, but this is something I just want to clarify. This is something that's actually set up in the books, and since these what-ifs are very similar to the books, I decided to change this. And something that isn't being changed is Sam Tarly's return to Horn Hill with us. While Euron holds Old Town, Sam returns home, and this scene basically plays the same. Sam tells his father of what happened to Old Town as well, but Randall Tarly just ignores him. Either way, Sam steals his father's ancestral sword and leaves with Gilly and Little Sam. Next up is Sansa Stark. Sansa sees Winterfell again and is overjoyed. They are halted at the gates, and Littlefinger tells them who he is and makes Sansa reveal herself basically. Rickon sees Sansa and allows them inside Winterfell. After 8 seasons, Sansa Stark is finally home, and the Vale army gets settled inside Winterfell. Sansa and Rickon have an emotional reunion, with Rickon overjoyed to see his big sister again. Upon return, Sansa is made the temporary regent of Winterfell, as Rickon is literally only 8, and now that an actual Stark is back, she is given an actual power. From one Stark to another, as Jon Snow and Ramsay Bolton meet on an open field. This is the parlay scene with one major difference, saying, instead of Sansa say, "You're going to die tomorrow, Lord Bolton," it is Jon that says that. Afterwards, Jon goes back towards his tent where he makes plans for the battle with Val, Tormund, and Melisandre. Tormund comes up with the strategy of luring Ramsay in, surrounding his army. Val says they need more men, and Jon snaps at her like he snapped at Sansa, saying, "We will fight with the men we have." Jon then tells Melisandre not to bring him back if he fails, to which Melisandre gives the same response, "I will do as the Lord of Light commands," ending episode 3. Episode 4 now, the Battle of the Bastards. I'm keeping this episode pretty much the damn same as in the show, but first, the show opened this episode with Meereen. So I'm going to open with Meereen as well, where we get the pact between Yara Greyjoy and Daenerys Targaryen. I know I'm zooming through this kind of quick, but I need to keep Daenerys' plot moving. They have the ships to carry them back to Westeros, and Daenerys agrees to recognize Yara Greyjoy as Queen of the Iron Islands in exchange for their support. Now we cut to the fateful day where Jon Snow walks out of the tent with his double wolf armor. Yeah, I'm skipping straight to that. It just looks too good. Where he looks up, leading his army, and sees what looks to be Rickon Stark. In reality, it's a fake, an actor hired to look like Rickon and lure Jon in. Jon rides out, and Ramsay kills the fake Rickon. Jon then realizes, fake Rickon. He's like, oh fuck, and we get the iconic scene of Jon pulling out his sword with the Bolton army marches at him. That starts the battle, and the only change to the Battle of the Bastards is that Ghost is there. When Jon finds himself surrounded, he sees the banners of the Vale and Manderley coming in. He looks up and sees Sansa Stark smiling while Shaggy Dog also joins the fight. Ramsay tries to flee, but he is caught, and then Jon repeatedly punches him. However, when he sees Sansa, he stops. The episode ends with Ramsay being taken away in chains, and Jon Snow says, "The battle is over. We have won," mirroring what Tywin Lannister said at the end of Season 2. I tried to keep the Battle of the Bastards exactly the same and tried to improve on it slightly. However, I'll make a big announcement. The big video I have hinted I've been working on all this time is a video analysis of the Battle of the Bastards. The actual one. I hinted at it during Game of Thrones House of Season 2, and I'm very happy to announce it. It's coming later this month in June. So, yeah, let's continue with the current video and the end of the Boltons. But the Boltons essentially ended in the Battle of the Bastards. In episode 5, we get to see Jon and Sansa's reunion. Following the battle, Jon and Sansa have the exact same reunion they do in Season 6, Episode 4. The only difference is that it's the location, as it's just outside a battlefield. At the end, instead of disagreeing, Jon agrees to go home. Moving to the Wall now. I said I wouldn't be featuring the Wall a lot. This is the one exception. Bran Stark arrives at the Wall. Bran and Meera Reed explain who they are, and Summer is proof that they aren't lying. This gets Ed to let Bran south of the Wall and on his way back home. Moving to another Stark, it's Arya. This is where... Excuse me, you might have heard me burp there. This is where Arya Stark kills Walder Frey. I'm still keeping that, as I think that was pretty badass. Finally, going away from House Stark, I've been focusing on them too damn much this video. I'm focusing on Brienne. She is with the Brotherhood where they are deciding where to go, before eventually settling on going north to fight the White Walkers. Going west of Westeros, Jaime arrives back in Casterly Rock. He reunites with Cersei, but it's a bit colder, and Jaime noticed she seems more mad. Not angry mad, the other kind of mad. But they talk about Tommen and Marcella, and Jaime and Cersei disagree on a lot of things. Now, leaving Westeros for Meereen, Daenerys has a private talk with Daario. This is where Daenerys tells Daario that he will stay in Meereen to keep the priests. Daario doesn't want to, but when Daenerys commands him, he agrees to stay in Meereen. This is followed up by Tyrion and Daenerys' conversation from Season 6, where Daenerys names Tyrion Hand of the Queen. Meanwhile, preparing to leave, Theon and Yara have another conversation, where Theon recognizes Yara as the true Queen of the Iron Islands. We are in episode 6 now, and halfway through the season. I'm making this a lot shorter than last time. We are in episode 6 now. Oh yeah, I already said that. I wonder how far we are into the video. Maybe we're like 15 minutes? Anyways, I will start with the Hound. After seeking revenge, the Hound finally gets it, killing the members of the Brotherhood that didn't go to Riverrun and killed his village. Now, on to politics. Aegon and Jon Connington return after a brief absence in order to defend Oldtown. They see Euron sieging it, and Aegon is present as the battle plans are made. He meets with the maesters that Sam met with earlier. We see Jorah Mormont in one of the grayscale cells. As for the other side of the upcoming battle, Euron Greyjoy receives Cersei's letter, and he makes some witty remarks before agreeing to go there after he wins the battle at Oldtown. Catching up with Samwell Tarly, he feels guilty about leaving Oldtown, so he decides to sneak back in and hide for now while the whole Reach is looking after him, as that's something that was stupid, how that Sam stole his father's Valyrian sword and no one looked for him. I'm changing that. Sam has to hide because he's wanted for theft of a Valyrian sword. He pulled the same trick that Brennan and Rickon did back in Season 2. In Arion 5, Arion and the rest of Aegon's small council hold court. One man details a group of wolves hunting around with a leader, and Varys connects the dots to be Arya Stark, and they thank him for this information. Finally, going up north, we see the end of the Boltons. Jon and Sansa arrive at Winterfell's executioner block, the same one we saw in episode 1. Snow looks around, gives Ramsay Bolton his final words, and Ramsay tries to scare them. In a direct parallel of Ned's execution of Will in episode 1 of the whole show, Jon Snow executes Ramsay Bolton, killing the last of the Boltons. The march continues, and they finally get to Winterfell. Jon stares in awe, finally being happy as he is home. Sansa asks him, how does it feel to be home? And Jon, for the first time in years, says, feels good to be home, and for the first time in years, he's happy. Jon hears someone call his name when he turns around and Rickon is there. Jon talks to Rickon like he does to Bran in season 8. Either way, most of the Stark family is home, and for Jon, for the first time in 7 seasons or 8, he is home. Finally, to end episode 6, we see Walder Frey hosting a feast with all his family. However, the Frey start suffocating, and they all die before Arya Stark takes off her mask as Walder Frey. Yes, I'm keeping Arya killing the Freys. I think this works so great and it's badass, and everyone loved to see it. In episode 7 now, we could pick up right where the last episode ended off, as Arya walks through the twins, where she stumbles into a room where she finds Robb Stark's bones. Seeing this is what convinces Arya to go home. As she also stumbles upon a raven telling word of the end of the Boltons and the rise of the Starks again. Meanwhile, Brienne arrives at the end of the crossroads where she meets Gendry. Yes, Gendry is back. He is essential to the story ahead as he is the Baratheon heir. Gendry explains where he's been for the past few seasons. After escaping Melisandre, he went to King's Landing and escaped with the Tyrell army, leaving King's Landing during before the Battle of King's Landing last season, before ending up at the end of the crossroads where he's been with Hot Pie this whole time. Gendry joins them on their road north. Traveling over to the Free Cities now, we see Daenerys, Yara Greyjoy, and all her supporters arriving in Braavos to negotiate with the Iron Bank. Tyrion makes the point that there wasn't any debts to the crown when the Targaryens ruled, and this gets the Iron Bank to supply Daenerys with even more sellswords. Going to the Lannisters, it's been a while since I talked about Cersei and Jaime, and they once again have a conversation, sowing further division between them as they have that same conversation about the end of the Freys and the Starks rising again in the north. Jaime wants her to surrender, but she won't. Another character I haven't talked about a while is Bran. He goes past Molestown. Remember, Bran is slower because he can't use his legs. Bran is shocked seeing what happened to the small town as it was burnt down by the wildlings back in season 4. Bran also sees Weirwood Tree, where he sees the past events of the season being the Stark banner flying, Jon beating up Ramsay, and Jon Sansa's reunion. This gets Bran to have Mira Reed and Summer take him home. Finally, we get to the Battle of the Old Town. The battle opens with Jon Connington charging into the battle, but kind of like the Battle of the Green Fork being cut down, we see the battle is cut and to see Jon Connington dying before an Ironborn kills him. We also see Mace Tyrell dead as Aegon leaves an incredibly weakened army out of the city trying to retreat. Euron laughs as we zoom out to see the Kraken has struck and the devastation of Old Town. Euron leaves as many people are wounded and dead. Alright, we are back, and we are going to start with episode 8 now. We see Arya Stark arrive at the end of the crossroads. Brienne and Gendry have already left, so Arya reunites with Hot Pie. He tells about her and Gendry. This is when Hot Pie asks where she's going. Arya isn't sure. This is where Hot Pie tells Arya about Jon and the Battle of the Bastards. This is what gets Arya to leave, and she leaves with the wolf pack bound north. Next is Sam Tarly, where he takes on a fake name and changes his look at the Citadel, and the Citadel buys it. This allows Samwell Tarly under the name Gren, honoring Sam's friend that died at the Watch. While getting another tour, Sam Tarly notices someone in Grayscale Chamber, where when he asks who this man is, the man touring him responds Jorah Mormont, which gets a slight reaction from Sam. Next is Aegon Targaryen, and after a devastating defeat at the Battle of Old Town, Aegon stops at Highgarden, where we are reintroduced to Larys and Olenna Tyrell. No, they didn't die. Aegon wants to name Larys hand to the king in exchange for the Reach's support. Olenna wants to decline, but Larys accepts the offer as he is now Lord of Highgarden. He marches with what limited men he has that didn't go with Mace. They intend to get back to King's Landing. Over to King's Landing, after hearing of Aegon's defeat at Old Town, we see Darren Martell suddenly collapse and die. It is revealed that he suffered a heart attack. A funeral is arranged, but some of the Dorne lords want to switch sides now. Traveling up to Winterfell, we get next. Jon and Sansa look over the ramps as Winterfell as it snows, and winter is here. Before long, Davos brings Jon a message from some of the survivors of Stannis. They tell the two Starks of Melisandre burning Shireen. This results in a trial where Jon, Sansa, and Rickon sit at the grand table as Jon and Sansa disagree on what to do with her. But after a word from Littlefinger, Rickon is the tying vote, and he sends Melisandre away, dismissing her from Winterfell. From there, we travel down to Castle Rock. We get Cersei and Euron's meeting, and it's pretty similar to how it is in the show. However, there's one key difference. Euron's plea works, and Cersei agrees to marry. Jaime isn't pleased about this, but Cersei won't refuse the crown, as she will become queen again. Finally, leaving Westeros, we travel to Braavos. Daenerys is preparing to leave her hand. Tyrion brings her news of the Battle of Old Town, and Tyrion says this is good news. The episode ends with a clip at the end of Season 6 with the Targaryen fleet sailing towards Dragonstone. In Episode 9, we open with Jon walking through the crypts, and it's kind of like one of Daemon's dreams at Harrenhal from House of the Dragon. He wakes up and is being called to the crypts. Jon then decides to go down to the crypts and to his father, Ned Stark's grave. There he meets Howland Reed. He introduces himself, but Jon knows all about him. There, Howland Reed shows Jon two things. The first is Ned Stark's bones. Ned's bones are shown to Jon, and the second thing is shown to Jon is Robb Stark's letter. Jon opens the letter, and Howland Reed says aloud, Jon Snow is now Jon Stark and legally king in the North. And this could be, as Howland Reed is saying, it's a flashback to Winterfell with Robb and some others writing a letter. But yeah, Howland Reed tells Jon to make his claim. But before Jon can respond, Sansa walks in saying there's someone at the gates. When Jon walks to the gates and inside the courtyard, he sees Bran. The two share an emotional reunion, the same one they did in Season 8. Sansa reunites with Bran, and Sansa and Bran go to the Godswood, where she tries to get Bran to take Winterfell like she did in the show, but Bran refuses, saying he is the three-eyed raven. Then Jon and Rickon walk to the Godswood, where Jon reveals that Howland Reed has brought Ned Stark's bones back to Winterfell, and the Lord of Winterfell has commanded a funeral service be prepared for their father. Most of the Starks are back, bar one, Arya. She is traveling, but then her and a wolf pack find the Brotherhood and on their way to Winterfell. Arya tells them who she is, but she sees two people in particular, Brienne of Tarth and Gendry. Brienne allows Arya to go with them, still feeling guilty about breaking her oath to Catelyn Stark. Arya then reunites with Gendry, and they're happy to see each other, but there's a bit more romance between the two of them. Finally, we travel to King's Landing, where it's Darren Martell's funeral. His bones are then sent to Darren, but Aerion can tell that many people are starting to turn away from Aegon as his army is depleted and he's facing defeat and still not back at King's Landing. Finally, we travel to Castle Rock, where it is Cersei and Euron's wedding. The wedding feast is extravagant, and Cersei says something to Jaime which pisses him off, commanding him to take the Lannister army and kill Aegon Targaryen. Cersei wants to send him away, and when the wedding ceremonies happen, while the marriage is being consummated, Jaime tries to walk into the bedchambers to kill Cersei, but when he gets to the door, he can't bring himself to do it. In the end, Jaime just leaves Castle Rock at the end of the episode. Finally, we are here, the Season 8 finale. To start off the season finale, we have a death, that being Aegon Targaryen. I have him dying at the Battle of Bitterbridge, where his forces are killed in battle with the Lannisters. Aegon and Larys Tyrell are both killed, and some of the forces of the Reach are spared, but most of Aegon's army is killed and destroyed. We don't get a reaction from King's Landing this episode. The capital will actually be absent from this episode, and instead I'm going to mainly focus on three houses: Stark, Targaryen, and Lannister. I begin with Lannister. I considered making this Cersei's crowning, but instead, since she's already Euron's queen, that is unnecessary. Instead, I'm going to have Cersei revealing that she is pregnant. It's ironic because She's actually pregnant with Euron's child this time, not Jaime's, showing how divided Cersei and Jaime just truly are. In this next two parts of the What Ifs, I'm going to fix Cersei's pregnancy from season 7 and 8. After Cersei's reveal, we got to the ocean where it transformed into another ocean, the Narrow Sea. Daenerys Targaryen mounts Drogon and all 3 of her dragons along with her navy and army go to Dragonstone. They find it empty besides the guards there who surrendered Dragonstone. Daenerys bends down on one knee and touches the sand. Daenerys is back in Westeros. Finally. However, not the last time we see her this season. I'm going to mention Sam Tarly here. This is where Sam cures Jorah Mormont. Not much to say, very similar to the actual show. And finally, we get to Winterfell in the North. This is going to be the longest part of the episode. The season finale has the long-awaited Jon and Arya reunion. It's very similar to the show, and however, it's in Winterfell's courtyard. Arya also reunites with Sansa and Bran, and their reunions are the same way as in the show. Arya reunites with Rickon. Then, Robb's bones are prepared. Presented. This leads into a transition where the Stark children put Ned and Robb's bones to rest in the crypts of Winterfell. Afterwards, Jon and Sansa get a huge talk. They should talk about who should truly be Rickon's regent and the future of the Starks. The argument gets heated before the two reconcile. However, a council is still called to decide who should rule Winterfell with 5 claims to power. The council starts with Bran and Arya withdrawing as they don't want any part in ruling Winterfell. However, Howland Reed speaks up, reading Robb Stark's letter that he showed Jon to all the Northern Lords and showing them that it has the Direwolf signature and Robb's own handwriting. This leads to the King in the North scene. Lyanna speaks up first, then the other Northern Lords before Robert Glover declares Jon the King in the North. I'm keeping Jon's King in the North scene very similar, except with his family is there, and Arya places a crown on top of Jon, declaring him the King in the North. It's such an epic and powerful scene, and I hope I was able to write that to what a fraction of what it was in the show. Upon zooming in on Jon's face after getting his crown, we transition to Dragonstone's throne room, where various lords and members of Daenerys' small council are bending the knee to her as she's sitting on the hearth on the throne. Then Daenerys gets a crown placed on top of her by Tyrion, and Daenerys is declared the Queen of the Seven Kingdoms, and that ends Season 8. This has been What If Game of Thrones went to 10 Seasons Part 3, rewriting Season 8. I primarily tried to combine my Winds of Winter predictions with the epicness of Season 6 and elements of Season 7. Now, next time we will cover I'll adapt my predictions for A Dream of Spring in the next parts of these What Ifs, but before then, we'll take a little bit of a break. Of course, in June, it's the Battle of the Bastards, a video essay. In July, I'm finally getting around to the FNAF Timeline Part 2. I'm finishing the timeline. I know, it's finally happening. Then in August, I will begin with my A Dream of Spring predictions. But until then, bye!